Welcome to Cracked, the podcast, the program that slays the dragons of mental health by stripping away the shame, embarrassment, fear, and stigma. Because mental health isn't something that affects just some of us, it applies to all of us. Here to shine a new light on areas of mental health that often go unvisited are your hosts, Rebecca Schaper and Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello and welcome to Cracked, the podcast with me, Sandie Sedgbeer.
And me, Rebecca Schaper.
At a time when so much is uncertain, the world is isolated, nations are divided on a variety of issues, and depression, stress, and anxiety are on the rise, it can be very challenging to maintain our emotional balance. And I think that's especially true when we are caring for loved ones who themselves are having a hard time. Sister Jenna is a prominent motivational speaker, a spiritual mentor, author and teacher. She's the founder of the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Museum in Maryland and Virginia and host of the popular syndicated radio show, America Meditating, which focuses on wellness, current events, healthy living, self-help, meditation and empowerment. Sister Jenna joins us this week to share her professional and personal insights on several important current topics, including mental and emotional wellness, the power of meditation, and coping with loved ones who are experiencing heightened anxiety and cognitive decline. Sister Jenna, welcome.
Pleasure to be with you both.
Your story is a fascinating one. You had this big, luxurious, materialistic life owning clubs in Florida. Then you had a very profound experience with God. Could you please share that experience and how it led you to the work you are doing now?
Going to need to do 10 shows for that.
Okay, well, this is number one.
Well, here we go. I think we're all called. I think all of us are getting a calling, but I think we're so busy and wrapped up in our lives we don't respond. And I think for me, it must have just been my destiny. Yes, I used to look attractive. I used to really dress really nice. I used to have an extreme lifestyle. I loved my luxury cars, my condo overlooking the Atlantic. But I believe when I felt that energy, was this ray of light came into my consciousness. I was like, I've never had that. And I went to India for a month and a half, and I didn't come back as Jenna anymore. I came back as Sister Jenna. And I just sat for a month and a half. I couldn't go back to the club, so I sold out my shares. I couldn't go back to the old version of myself. It just felt sacrilegious to do that. And so Dadi Janki, who at the time was the head of the Brahma Kumaris, she passed away last year, by the way, at 104.
Wow.
She had her eye on me since I was 17. And it was her vision. She says, I think you're ready now. And I said, I think so. And I went into the ashram. I got trained for the first 4 years in New York under the leadership of Sister Mohini, who's the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. And here I am, almost 30 years later. Can you believe it?
Wow. Well, I think you look beautiful, and it wears well on you.
Do you think that, those completely diverse experiences, that really the first part of your life was a kind of practice training ground for what was to come later? I mean, were there things that you learned there that were very helpful to you later?
Running a nightclub, you're interacting with so many people. You love diversity. You want to see people happy. Yes, I got them intoxicated, but now I get them intoxicated with knowledge, with environment, with presence. You know what, sisters? We're all being prepared for something, no matter how much we cut it up. I think my father being Hindu and my mother being an African Caribbean whose belief system was in the Roman Catholic tradition gave me insights growing up. God's not a religion. And my latest quote, which actually so many people have been telling me they love it, is that I wake up every morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock. That's when I listen to what's happening up here, the soul level. And what came out of me was, you can't squeeze God in a religion. He's too big for that. And it was just so powerful for me. And that's what it is. Every day, something new opens up for you. And that's the path of spirituality for all of us.
Yeah, you said about your Hindu family and your mum. I mean, your mum was somebody, I've heard you say, who was looking for something. I mean, she tried on a few different religions, didn't she? She was a Rastafarian, she looked into Judaism, Muslim, Buddhism, and then she found Brahma Kumaris, and that changed everything. And that changed her too. Can you give us a brief rundown of how you saw your mother change after that?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, just 2-3 days ago, I was very emotional with her. And I was telling her, you know, every time I do a talk or a lecture, I talk so proud of you and look at you today and look at what you're doing. And I caught myself and I said, what's happening to you? So it's a little delicate part of me right now. I think because I'm aware of her upbringing and being orphaned at 7 in Jamaica and, you know, protecting her younger sisters from men with bad intentions and dealing with whatever they wanted to do with her sisters just to protect them. Just these stories would just move me. And then I would realize, where does she find her strength from? But being raised under her, I just don't know how, ladies, and everyone who's watching and listening today, I have no idea how that woman protected me. I should have been a statistic. We should have been either on the streets, she should have been selling her body for money, or in a drug house. She didn't. So even though she was just a mess growing up, always angry, if you looked at her too long, she would just beat you up. And after looking at her being Rastafarian, Buddhist, this, that, and when she came to the Brahma Kumaris, which we call for short BKs, to make it easier on both of you, I just said, it'll be just a matter of time. Would you believe it? In 6 months, her whole aura changed into like an angel. I'll never forget that day. She was walking from the kitchen to offer food that she made for God, which she calls Baba. And as she was walking past the kitchen to the prayer room, there was this aura of light that just glided with her. And I looked at it and I said, wow, I want to become like that.
So did you feel like you got an intuitive hit when you said 6 months things would change? I mean, tell me about that. I'm just curious.
Expecting that in 6 months' time, I would have seen her looking with the fragrance of an angel, and she stopped yelling at people, and she stopped being angry, and she stopped fighting. And then, of course, my skeptic way is that I went into her bank account to see if they were draining her money, because how in the world could she change that fast? I hadn't seen her change before in any other practice. And she wasn't. She was just giving a basic amount, which, you know, tithing is always important. That was fine with me. But yeah, I didn't know intuitively that when I would look at her 6 months later, that I would have seen an angel. And she is stuck with the Brahma Kumaris for almost 40 years.
Do you think that angel was protecting her all the way when you said you had? What are your thoughts about that? And then it came to fruition where you saw.
He was the angel.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily an angel protecting her. We all have angels protecting us. Our ancestors,
Yes.
our loved ones that have left us are all sending us their purest wishes. But she had become the angel. And can I tell you, if you see her today, I mean, she escaped from the property. We are on a very big property in a big house now, and she escaped. It's good I told the neighbors, if you see my mother walking around, please call me immediately. She escapes her aides. And as much as she does what she does, she dances, she sings, she turns on the stove, she puts things in the oven, she wears her clothes back to front, she takes all my clothes and she puts them as pants. I mean, all the things that she does, which I call entertainment, she's an angel. Her energy just has that vibration. And I go, how does she do that?
I definitely believe that. My question to you is, there are more than 16 million people caring for someone with dementia in the USA alone, and many more around the world, and you're one of them. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey with your mother, and by then was your spiritual teacher? That's the key, and friend.
I lost a mother, a best friend, a business partner, a teacher, a spiritual guide, and I somehow acquired a child, a baby. I have no interest in having children, which is why I chose not to have any in this birth. And if you sometimes walk around with a camera, I go, look, I didn't want any kids. I didn't want any kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, as I dice it up and I look at it, and this is a tender conversation we're having, and very private, but very personal, not private. I don't have anything private. But I knew my mother always had issues. I didn't know what they were. I was too young, or maybe I just didn't know the language. When you're raised in a particular environment, you just think it's normal. And I think it was when she tried to commit suicide for the first time that I was like, what's wrong with Mom? And I remembered I was about 6. And I said, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to become a psychologist and I'm going to direct everybody to God so they don't feel like that.
I understand how you feel.
Yeah.
When I see that that actually has happened, I would say that losing someone that has so much relationship to you and gaining a relationship that you had no interest in is a blessing. I must say that, and I think for many caregivers, I am discovering things about myself I never know was even sitting in my consciousness. I've often thought of myself to be very kind, very patient, very accommodating. And especially since we've been living in this new home and her being in such close proximity to me, I have to confess I haven't been that. And that disturbs me. And I think more than anything else, I'm so disappointed in myself when I forget who I am. And I forget the fortune that I have in taking care of this beautiful being. So ever so often I bring myself back, but I'm very, very happy to tell everyone out there I'm good now. I've accepted it, and I have said, I'm going to be who I know God has made me, and I must continue with that. Sister Gita, who I call my mother is Sister Gita, we call her. She's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's us that
It's-
aren't so much.
And I'm so glad to see you have more compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's really important. You know, I have a very close relative whose husband and his parents are going through that very same thing. And so I get to hear, I haven't seen much of it, but I get to hear about it. And it's the hardest thing in the world. And, you know, certainly the wife who's caring for the husband, she's lost the future that they had planned together. And she said, I never thought our lives would end like this. And he, bless his heart, he's like a child. He's gone back to the innocence of a child and the fears of a child and the anxieties of a child. And I don't know where people find the strength, you know, day in, day out. I mean, do you have any tips to offer people?
Oh yes, give yourself a date when you will decide you're done. You're done allowing the process that they're going through to be about you. It isn't. And so I'd given myself 2 months, and when the second month, when that deadline came, I never went back to losing my tolerance or myself. I mean, once in a while I go, what? You know, but now I will really recommend to you, you are the master of your destiny. Give yourself a date when you will decide to take your power back from that relationship and connection. 2, I think when I look at the bigger picture, I don't have any control how everything is going to unfold other than the way I need to show up in that situation and circumstance. I believe we all have mental health opportunities. If you notice the word I've used, mental health opportunity. And I feel that we don't have to get to the point of trying to commit suicide or witnessing your mother laying in bed for months or you being too young to even understand if that's not normal. And then maybe being brought up in such a culture that you were determined to keep yourself happy and healthy because you go, I can't go there. I don't know what's the reason why our lives unfold the way it does, but I think the best thing that we can offer ourselves is the attention and the interest to keep checking if you're okay. And I believe that if you ever feel that you're not, you must do something about it. You can't allow that to become your norm. So whether you give yourself a date and determine when you're not going to allow the outside to keep influencing you all the time, or you look at the situation and you say, that's their role to play, that's their part. What's my part here? You know, or the third thing is, are you willing to pay attention and keep checking how you're feeling and to use the virtue of honesty to say, really, is this the way you want to be for another year, 5 years, 10 years? You need to develop that intimate relationship with yourself during taking care of somebody with dementia, Alzheimer's, or a mental health opportunity. It is to your benefit.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. Both my parents died by suicide, and my brother was schizophrenia, and I found him, and I was his caregiver. But along the way, I realized I had to do some self-care, and you're exactly right. But for me, there were lessons along the way that I learned, and I'm very grateful for those lessons. And I feel that way for you. We're evolving and we're learning lessons continuously. So I just congratulate you and honor you.
I have to say that my family, staff, friends, they have been such a big help, and it doesn't matter how great your position is in the world and how respected you are with the world outside of your home. I think it's important for you to reveal the truth about how you become powerful. You know, that it's not that God just appoints you his little saint in the world and all of a sudden life is a bed of roses and you're perfect and you're on stages and people think you're God and all of this. Yes, maybe so. But let me tell you what I've done to get here and what I go through and what are some of the opportunities that continue to knock on my door. One of the things that I feel is really important, sisters and everyone out there, is maybe I'll just go back again. You've got to check how you're feeling. And I remembered sometimes I'll wake up and I'll tell the staff, I'm not feeling good today. And they immediately just go into gear, let's look out for sister. And I feel that sometimes we're so ashamed or we don't feel confident enough to tell even the closest people, I don't feel good. I remembered when we first moved into the property and a month later, I'm just absurd. I'm still getting used to going to a bathroom that I'm not used to. This is how much we become creatures of habit, right?
Yes.
And I remember a month later, I'm sitting with the family and the staff, and I said, I don't like the person I'm becoming. It's not me. And as I'm talking this through with them, they're listening, but I'm also hearing it back. And I'm quietly knowing I have to make adjustments. I must make adjustments because I'm worth that, you know? So I'm a big advocate of honest inner dialogue, not only with yourself, but with the ones you live with.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage for you to ask for help, because as caregivers like yourself, it's hard to ask for help.
Especially when you have a position like mine, where the whole world comes to me to be taken care of and to be protected, and I'm saying, I'm here for you. I can take care of you. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to go through moments when I'm like, oh, that's a lot. I need some more time.
Yeah.
Yes.
That being honest with oneself is a really important thing. I mean, you know, you said that people don't like to ask for help. We all feel that we should be strong. You know, we have to be capable. We can take care of it. Otherwise, we look weak. So we don't ask for help. But at the same time, you know, I think that it's not until we're tested, you know, as you said, we can think, oh, I'm kind and I'm generous and I'm doing this. And then suddenly we have an experience like the one you're encountering, and we start finding ourselves reacting rather than responding. And then we think, oh, maybe I'm not as kind as I thought I was, you know. I need to have a look at myself and have a conversation with myself. You know, what is bothering me? Why?
I'm thinking of a young lady who, she's Persian. And I remembered when she would come to the museum or to the center, and she would always like bubbly, you know, like always happy. And I just knew her happiness wasn't real. It was like a running away from. And I'll never forget the day when I was just being very open and honest with her and saying, you know, some days I don't always feel so great, and I don't always need to prove to people that I am. And I don't know if that was a turnaround point for her. But I think that we've had this stigma of mental health opportunities, that something is wrong with me or I'm so weak if I'm not happy, and suppressing the real feelings that you're going through is adding to your mental health opportunity, which sometimes means I might need more time to sort out what I'm going through because I haven't been honest with myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I've seen some reports recently. People are actually looking at this elusive thing called happiness, you know, and we're all chasing it. But I don't think many of us actually realize what happiness is. We think it's going to be that or that or that, but it's something else entirely.
Happiness is within.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's the journey within.
Mm.
At least that's with me. And yes, I get off kilter, and that's okay. I realize that, and I say, okay, what's going on, and deal with it then, and then do something that I enjoy doing.
A show like yours is so important, and why I was so wanting to be on it, it's because you're touching on something that, I mean, yes, has been a stigma in the past, even more so. I mean, there was a time when India had the highest rates of suicide of all the countries in the world, one.
Wow.
Secondly, it was one of the number one countries that was coined the most depressed. And yet, when you look at Bollywood movies, you're like, there's no way that country can be depressed. But I think that what happens, I think it's important that what your show does, it invites every single one of us to reflect and remember that time when you were just so sad. And it's important that you distinguish sadness is different than depression.
Yes.
Right. It's like when you don't address the sadness and then you keep deceiving yourself, it turns into depression, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why that open dialogue is so important. And have you and I ever been able to articulate when we're feeling so low inside, so uninspired, like nothing matters, I don't care? I mean, do you even have the words to explain that? You don't.
No.
But what you do wish is that you can just call that one person that can make you laugh. You know what I do if I'm having one of my down days? I put on Ellen DeGeneres. She just cracks me up. Just like I go, okay. And I
Good, you have a
must tell
go-to.
you know, the laughter is so important.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
We forget how to laugh. You know, I spent months looking after my ex-mother-in-law during lockdown because she broke her shoulder while she was staying with me. And I lost my sense of humour. And I realised one day I hadn't laughed in months. That was my turning point. You know, this is down to me. You know, I'm the only one who can correct this. But yes, we take it all so seriously. And sometimes we have to remember that the joy in life, even with everything that's going on in the world, you know, there are great moments and there are special moments and tender moments. And we need to appreciate that more. We're going to go to a short break now, Sister Jenna. We'll be back in a few moments. You're listening to Crack the Podcast with me, Sandie Sedgbeer, and my co-host, Rebecca Schaper. And our guest this week is prominent motivational speaker, spiritual mentor, author, teacher, TV personality, and founder of the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Museum in Maryland and Virginia. And I'm speaking, of course, about Sister Jenna, whose popular syndicated radio show, America Meditating, focuses on wellness, current events, healthy living, self-help, meditation, and empowerment. We'll be back in a few moments with more from Sister Jenna.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Worried about your friend but don't know how to reach out?
You could say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat with them in VR. It's all good if you think you should check in. Yeah, you should.
Whatever gets you talking.
Reach out to a friend about their mental health.
Whatever gets you talking.
Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
Sister Jenna, I know Rebecca's got a question, but first I want to ask you something. A Gallup poll called Healthways, the Wellbeing Index, said that well-being is made up of 5 key ingredients: purpose, social, financial, community, physical. And only, at the time this was conducted a few years ago, only 7% of Americans are thriving across all 5 domains. That was before the pandemic. I should think that number's really dropped even more since then. But I mean, do you have an opinion on what is happening to our societies and to our psyches that so few people are thriving these days?
Call because America just got out of a very tumultuous period of leadership where truth became a lie and the lie became a truth. We really don't even know what's the result of anything anymore. I think that it's important for us to look at cultures like America that tends to focus a lot on external attainments to define if they're joyous, if they're okay, or if things are going well. I think that if we can look deeper than the skin and you begin to focus on the interior world, and you recognize if the interior world is supporting and sustaining relationships, finances in a well way, the environment, the social settings of situations, then I think we'll get the right statistic, to be honest with you. You and I can show numbers and it looks like everything is going great, but the country that invests the most in antidepressants is right here.
Yep.
It's right here. So what they're basically saying is, here are my dots, here are my checks. You've got money, you've got this, you thrive. Okay, 7% of you. Okay, good. No, let's look beneath the skin, beneath the eyes, and then ask the soul. And I wish world leaders would really begin to focus on the soul. One of the things I loved about Prime Minister Modi of India is that a few years ago, he declared at the UN International Day of Yoga. And never has a world leader come forward to say, let's do yoga, meditation. To me, I felt that was such a big plus, right? And I feel that if we start to find the data of how a person feels when money is like this, or when situations are like this, or and then see how we can work from that interior world of curing the soul, we won't be having so many mental health opportunities. You know what I mean? And it sends such an unhealthy messaging that if I don't have a good car, if I don't have a good partner, if I'm going through a divorce or whatever, I'm going to be a mess. No. We might not all get everything that we visualize or see other people having, but we still have the ability to be happy internally. When I go to the villages in developing countries, and I play with those kids on the streets or in the huts in the villages, it baffles me how the spark in their eyes, like, hi, and they have nothing, and then I'm with the kids here, and they're like, what do you want?
Yeah.
You know, I find that a lot of people want to be seen and heard. And I think that's a big source of it as well. But you're right. When you go to other countries, it's very enlightening to see, even in the most poverty places, they're happy. And actually, I've been to India before, and I would see like 5 people on one motorbike, but they looked happy. I mean, they were happy. And it was I'm sorry. It was a lesson for me. You know, I was like, wow, I just was very, very grateful to be able to travel and see.
Yeah. Well, educational. It is interesting to see how little it takes to make a child happy.
Yeah.
You know, give them a stick, give them a bit of dirt, a bit of sand, a bit of water, or something like that. That's all they need, and they're as happy as can be. They don't need a phone in their pocket.
Let me tell you a story. I had to meet this model who was very well known on the cover of Vogue, Cosmopolitan, and she wanted me to counsel her. And so we had to meet at this coffee shop in New York City. So I'd seen her, I go, okay, I'll be in New York, let's meet. And I'm sitting at this coffee shop, and she passes me apparently 2 times. I wasn't the same person that I saw in the cover of the magazines or online. I looked up at her, I was like, oh yes, oh hi. And I remember just going, oh my goodness, she doesn't look anything like the magazine. And the point that I'm making is, the world has given us such an image of an illusion that we don't even realize that what we're trying to go for or define ourselves from isn't real. And so of course there's going to be depression. Of course people are going to feel like they're not good enough. Of course they're going to do silly things like, I don't know, take their lives perhaps. It's just that we need to start to have this conversation. That's an illusion. You know it's not real, right? And when you can do that and have that sit in, then they won't be doing all these, wild things to be seen on social media, like everyone's got to do something to like, you see me? I'm like, I saw you without all of that antics,
It's just part of saying, I see you. I care for you for who you are, not what you want to become. To me, that's just so important.
Swahili tribe in Kenya, they never say I love you. They say I see you. And there was a young boy in school, and he kept putting up his hand for the teacher to call on him, and she never did. And a month later, he tells his mom as they're having dinner, Mom, I don't know what it is. My teacher doesn't like me. She doesn't love me. And her mother said, but why do you say that, honey? She never sees me. And so I think that we somehow, and I don't know if it's an intuitive thing or if we're just wired, that if you just acknowledge me, it means you care. And so if I'm just trying to go out there and show myself and I get only 3 likes, there are people, kids, depressed because they only have 10 likes. And then when they see somebody else with 100 and they're doing antics, they then try to do something to get more likes. And that's not who they are. And so then you add to that mental health opportunity knocking on your door at some point.
Absolutely. And this is part of what we're doing. And I'm curious, what would you say the solution to that is? Does it go back to the parents? Does it go back to the environment? I mean, where would you say someone should really start to change the mindset of, say, for instance, these kids that want to be seen and that act out and want to model someone else that they're really not? I'm just curious.
I'll give you an example that I've done with the kids here. Because I know they're on those gadgets all the time, then I come up with a project. A program. I says, hey guys, you're doing great. Could you do something on dogs? Could you bring me something like a 3-minute video on how a dog takes away the depression of their master? Oh yeah. And then I'm gently redirecting their energy into something more purpose-based. I don't think this generation will get off of those gadgets. We're not getting off of those gadgets ourselves, right? But I think that if we can offer an opportunity for them to discern and pivot a little bit to where their thoughts, words, and deeds can be used in a worthwhile way, we would have done our share. Because isn't it the truth, ladies? We too are figuring this out with technology and social media, and they're born in it. They're not figuring out anything, they're born in it. We've had the days of one channel on a television screen, right? Some of us telegramming. Right? So I can't say that I can give any great answer other than let me then utilize their energy to do something meaningful.
I think that's a terrific answer.
You turn the problem itself into the solution.
Exactly.
I want to
Tell you
talk
this.
to you.
Wait.
Sorry,
I just
go
have
on.
to say that with some of the questions that I got some questions for a magazine that's going to feature me on the cover, and I had the kids interview me to answer the questions for the magazine. Would you believe in less than 24 hours they transcribed the whole interview, turned it around and said, do you have any more? We love this.
Yeah.
It's because they're not being given an opportunity to use their energy in a way that supports their power. And I think we should do that as adults.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
That phrase right there, using their energy to support their power, that is so important.
Yeah.
Because we're just leaving them to play with the energy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good point.
Very, very proud.
Because we've only got about 12 minutes left, I wanted to make sure that we talk to you about meditation. Now, we know This neuroscience has shown us how valuable meditation is, how it literally can change traits as well as states. And of course, your podcast is America Meditating, and you do focus on mental health and meditation quite a lot. And you talk to a number of people about their own health, because I think it's really important for us to hear that even the celebrities have their challenges. What is your thing about meditation? I mean, clearly you love it, but when did it start? What did it do for you?
I'm not quite sure when it started officially. I think we all meditate, which is we've had a quiet moment where we were contemplating on something about our lives and we were trying to find an internal solution. So that's meditation to me. It's where I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to figure something out. As for me, what's been working for me has been the Raja Yoga meditation that I practice on a regular basis. And the way that I journey through that is basically everything I've told you today. I just show up really honestly with what I'm thinking and feeling. And I believe that if people can develop that habit, everyone will be a meditator. It's not just sitting for 20 minutes, chanting, reciting of scripture, a mantra, doing a beads. I think it's important that we get into this habit to check in with ourselves quite frequently. In the Brahma Kumaris, we do something called traffic control. So we pause every hour on the hour to check in. Am I Om Shanti? Am I at peace with myself, with my conscience, with my choices? And it has been helping us a lot. But I feel if anyone out there is curious about maybe even exploring new forms of meditation, first, just keep asking yourself, are you okay? And that immediate response will be your trigger to helping you to direct where you need to go next. And so I'm not a proponent for meditation that says, empty your thoughts and empty your mind. I don't know how anyone's doing that. I mean, the soul is in the body, and the soul has a legacy that it's traveling with, and the soul has history and stories, and I want to feed from some of those stories. I don't want to empty those. So I think perhaps whoever started that, I think what they were trying to tell people to do is in meditation, focus on reducing or deleting waste and negative thoughts. So the genesis behind our waste and negative thinking, which is wasting our time, is an acronym that I would like to introduce called ALGE. It represents the intention of anger, lust, greed, attachment, and ego. And when my thoughts are driven by those motives, I will not be at peace with myself. So then I want to meditate. What do I want to meditate? I want to meditate to look inside of my mind and discern, should I be feeding my algae or should I feed the real me? And then when you, the soul, can make the decision and say, I don't want to feed that algae anymore. And then you start to enjoy the story and the thoughts that are based on love and purity and peace. So I would suggest to anyone that maybe is curious about meditating, find a meditation that develops your personality, that brings you into a better relationship with yourself and with others around you, with your environment, with your world. Find a meditation that doesn't pull you away from the world, but puts you into it and says, how can I serve? Find a meditation that makes your heart sing when you feel the connection to God's light streaming through your being. And God is saying, thank you for not putting me in a religion. All I wanted to do was love you. Find a meditation that speaks deeply to your being and makes you a better citizen for our humanity. That's my suggestion. That's because it comes from my world. But I believe that might be what we're all actually seeking in our own way.
That's beautiful. My meditation is nature. I immerse myself. If I'm on the ocean, or if I'm in the forest or watching the birds, that to me is meditation. I'm curious, what is your definition of a soul?
Energy, light, a level of consciousness. It is the life force that gives the five senses life to express what is recorded in your personality. It has the ability to feed two levels of consciousness, either the algae or the real you. Mm-hmm. And the soul is doing all of that.
Yeah, very interesting. Your show, America Meditating, it's a daily show, isn't it? How do you keep up that pace?
Yeah,
I have everybody around me are the best. I think it's more, how do I keep up with them? I think everybody behind making America Meditating such a success, they're wonderful. They're just the best people. And I'm fortunate to have a great group of people who are committed to the mission of contributing love and harmony to the planet.
Is that the mission for your show?
Yeah, the show actually started, might not know this, when Mom did her double mastectomy, and she's lying in the room, and my mother's a trip. She wants me to see she's got 2 bags dripping with blood, so she opens up her blouse like this, and I would pass her bedroom. I'm like, oh God, this woman of mine. And
she brings humor to you though, right?
It's so the truth. So I just said, you know what, I've got to find her something to do. I've got to. So my brother went looking online for like an online radio show, just something she could do, because she has a beautiful voice and a beautiful presence and a lot of wisdom. So we found this blog talk, and we got her started, and she says, don't leave me, I just need you to be with me. And for the first 2 weeks, we got Byron Katie, David Lynch, Russell Simmons, all of these wonderful people. And she just says, no, I can't do it by myself. And I was like, what? No, this is for you. So anyway, that's how America Meditating started, to give my mother an opportunity to stay engaged in service so that she doesn't fall into depression because of her, healing from the surgery, chemo, and all of these things. And ladies, I had no idea it would have become such a popular and loved program. The friendships, the relationships, the retreats that we've done, it's been a blessing. And I think it's because my mother is connected to it.
Yes.
Because her energy is so pure, whatever she does always turns out to be wonderful.
So you think that frequency of that purity is what's attracting people?
Yeah.
It has to be, because, listen, I'm educated, okay? I mean, come on.
Right.
And then after I'm doing the shows and I'm like really done the research, she comes on and she does a poem, and then she sings, and she sings every little cell in my body's happy, and then she does her wild, crazy things. And at the end of the show, everybody goes, oh, I love Sister Gita. Nobody ever loves me. It's just like they like her.
I think a lot of people love you, but also too, just hearing you talk about your mother, it's because she's free. She's who she is. She's
like
expressing her creativity. She is happy within herself. And that's, to me, that's it right there.
That's the cure for depression, isn't it? I mean, to just be free to express.
Yeah. I do believe
said something
creativity is, I'm sorry.
You've just said something that has woken up something in me so much right now. Where we might think something is wrong with someone because they're actually free, and you're the conservative one playing things safe and being in order and blah, blah, blah. Who's the one with really the mental health opportunity here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the awareness of being able to see that too. So I think that speaks very highly of anyone, to see the lessons in another person. I mean, my husband, I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from Sandie, my co-host, and I'm always learning from other people.
Yeah. And
I wish I could bring her up right now and show you her.
I wish
Like,
you could.
Love
if I
that.
could, I would bring her up, and she would be like, ha ha ha. And she would be.
Love that, 'cause I would like to be able to laugh, bring the humor.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're waiting for. People talk about the British being so stiff, this stiff upper lip, and you get on a tube train and nobody talks to anyone, or you're all sitting in the doctor's waiting room and nobody's talking to anyone. But on the very odd occasion when somebody does, it's as if it's like everybody's been waiting for someone to give them permission. Or a child comes in and then suddenly everybody can let it out because they're talking to the child. We restrict ourselves so much.
Absolutely.
We're so guarded.
Yeah.
We're so guarded. And it's okay not to be. I mean,
She'll go out there and she just starts to dance with the neighbors.
Oh my God, I love
And to be very honest with you, I want to do that.
Well,
I want to dance with the neighbors.
Well, what's holding you back?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah. I think that she sounds wonderful. I wish you could bring her on. I would love to.
She certainly does sound like a solution. I mean, I've got a question here, and you've already answered it because your mother is the answer to this question. And it was, you've got a series called The Next Normal, which helps guide listeners through times of anxiety, stress, and to find a balance. And I was going to say, how can we start reclaiming our well-being? Well, I think you've told us. Yeah.
Next Normal, when we first started, because I closed down the meditation museums, we had two, and we were doing the recordings from the living room. So at that time, Sister Gita's dementia was becoming even more entertaining. So we would be live, ladies, every day. I was live on air from 6:30 to 7:30. And sometimes she'd be half dressed, hair is sticking up. She'll come in front of the camera, what is that? Who's that? So everyone live is witnessing this. So actually, let me tell you what was the beauty of it. So many of our viewers were enduring similar situations, taking care of a parent with dementia.
Wow.
So they were being healed in the process. Sister Gita, you want to come and say hello to everybody?
Where?
Over here. Come. She just came upstairs. Come this way. So, she is one of the best cooks, and she cooked Jamaican jerk tofu and took it to the UN and gave it to Oprah. This is just the things that she'd do. You can't do that to Oprah. She goes, she needs to have the Jamaican jerk tofu.
She's got such a great spirit.
Come here. She has a beautiful spirit. She's walking up. We don't get her around here much anymore. Come and say hello.
Hello.
Over there, and say hi to the nice ladies. You want to say hello to everybody?
Where are they?
They're right there in front.
We're here.
No, don't go down here. Can you see her?
No, now we can. Hello.
Oh, you want to say anything to them?
It seems every little cell in your body is happy. Every little cell in your body is well.
Feel so good. Feel so swell.
Every single cell in your body is happy.
I told you.
I love that.
How lovely.
That's the perfect song to be singing.
Exactly. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's so lovely to meet you, Sister Gita.
it is so lovely to meet you. And you have a daughter that loves you so much. Do you have any parting words you'd like to say to our audience?
Is there anything that you'd like to tell anybody out there?
They're well.
She wants to know if they're well. Anything else? She might ask them to take her to Miami because every day she wakes up, can someone take me to Miami?
Well, I live in
Anyway,
Atlanta. I can't help you there.
Why do you like Miami so much?
because she had a condo in Miami, and I used to take her there, and it was overlooking the ocean, the Atlantic.
It's not because that's
So-
where all the young people go and party.
Yeah, I love the ocean too.
Yeah. We've only got less than a minute left. I just want to ask you one last question, Sister Jenna, and that was about your being selected by EBW 2020 as one of the most influential leaders for 2015. And you said that your mission is to decode critical current issues and offer a perspective for folks to find clarity. Why is that mission so important to you?
That it's important for us to have a dialogue and a narrative that can lead us into recognizing the conflict starts inside of you. And if you can transform that conflict and make it into something of harmony or balance, then you will know how to address certain civic issues, national issues, global issues. And I think why we're not finding world peace yet is because folks are not recognizing how to find their own inner peace.
Well said.
Well said.
Yeah. I'm afraid we're out of time now. We're going to be cut off any second. So, Sister Jenna, thank you so much for joining us today. And I just want to tell everybody you can go over to Sister Jenna's site. She's got books, programs, events, and free meditations there. AmericaMeditating.org. That's it for today. We'll be back at the same time in 2 weeks. Till then, it's goodbye from me, Sandie Sedgbeer.
And me, Rebecca Schaper. And thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Sister Jenna. And thank you, Mother, too. I'm going to take that song with me.
She's dancing. She's actually dancing right now down below.
I wish we had more time.